Welcome to the STR Data Lab.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the STR Data Lab. I'm Jamie Lane, Chief Economist at AirDNA, and I'm joined today by a new guest, a guest that I hadn't met before recording, Matthew Orley, the CEO of Red Cottage.
Hey, Jamie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, maybe both for me and for our audience, can you give us the quick history of Red Cottage, or at least history in your eyes, and then um, what you do and what's sort of the vision around Red Cottage right now?
Yeah, Red Cottage is an amazing company and actually has been around since about 2007 in the uh, Catskills Hudson Valley region outside of New York City. My affiliation with the business has been much shorter. I bought the company from the founder about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and in the time since, we have really expanded this business and built it into a platform that is catering to all of these amazing destinations in the Northeast that are really drivable from New York City or Boston or Philly, and meant to really appeal to someone who is um, really a weekend traveler. So many of our guests are, in the city, and they're always looking to get out. And the portfolio of homes that we have is incredibly design focused. We are price agnostic in that we really cater to all price segments. But the commonality across our portfolio is everything really is really well designed, and we benefit from having so many homeowners who come from the design worlds and the fashion worlds, and those perspectives are very clearly imparted on the homes that we have. And so I feel that our portfolio is second to none in the short term rental space. It is incredibly unique, and we have uh, a great platform that again is just unusual in the space.
Yeah. So, buying Red Cottage just a couple years ago, what were you doing prior to that? What brought you into the vacation rental industry?
So, in the immediate time leading up to it, I had been somewhat of a, I guess, casual investor in the short-term rental space, and my wife and I had been purchasing homes that we were then turning into rentals that were very compelling in that we had partnered with a number of brands to help elevate them. We had great partnerships. We marketed them as being affiliated with those brands, and they were performing really well. And we really were looking at this space at the time. You know, I was personally saying there's so much new software that's being purpose built for the short term rental space, and there are so many, small companies that are now trading up, and it felt very opportunistic to move deeper into this space. Not to mention that, there was just opportunity to be very creative, in with the specific homes that we were designing and rolling out. And the Red Cottage platform always, yeah, I stayed with them as a guest all the way back to 2010. The portfolio was unrivaled. It was really high end, but just the design ethos around the brand was always very clear. And that was always something that even coming in, I always wanted to maintain because it really is unlike any other portfolio, especially in this region.
Yeah, so I feel like you've got a unique perspective now in operating in the sort of lower Hudson Valley area for the past few years. And no surprise, like looking at the data, like being such a second home market, it was a market that we actually saw pretty steep supply decreases as people sort of pulled back and renting their second homes as short-term rentals because they had this newfound sort of freedom to use those second homes and work remotely. We also saw at the same time, like demand sort of spike, occupancies And looking at the data, like in 2020, 2021 were very high, and then, they appear to have sort of normalized over that time period. So, in coming in the past 2 years, how have you seen that portfolio sort of perform and sort of your and thinking about an industry in such a unique market, over these past 2 years?
Well, I sort of feel that there is still a glut of supply, and you did see and continue to see, maybe in a diminished way, but individuals coming in, from the city or elsewhere and buying properties and, for the explicit purpose of renting them out. I mean, obviously that was thematic in COVID, but even past that, we've continued to see in applications we get, from from individuals who are buying to specifically to rent out the home. And it continues to push us to think, because there are when you talk about the Hudson Valley broadly, or even as you extend that into the other service areas that we have, which are now in Connecticut and Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, and it's a fairly broad you know service area, and we're just always thinking, how can we really lock our guests into the ecosystem that we're building, and continue to bring them back and reinforce that we should be the first place that they're thinking of when they want to get out. And how can we incentivize that kind of like impulsive travel and that impulsive getaway? And we have a very high direct booking rate. In any given month, we're doing easily 50% to two-thirds of our bookings direct. And a large part of that is due to the brand that we've built, the brand that we continue to reinforce and lean into. But I think there absolutely is, just still a lot of supply in the market.
So, as I think as like a homeowner looking to go with a property manager, and there's one major thing that I would want as thinking through of like that this property manager is gonna get me bookings that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to get through an OTA. Like, they're gonna expand the reach massively. Obviously, they're gonna make it much easier for me to operate and things like that, and in talking to you, it does sound like you've created something unique that provides homeowners something that and it's worth paying for because of what you can bring to the table in terms of bringing unique guests to their homes that they wouldn't be able to find otherwise, or at least not with with not a lot of significant effort. So, can you describe those sort of unique ways that you're sort of finding those guests and then keeping them within your ecosystem to keep them coming back to properties within your company?
Right. Well, we're not purely a manager in the truest sense. We obviously provide those hospitality services, but we also have that direct relationship with those guests in a way that very few others do. And we have now launched a membership program that continues to help draw guests out, uh, to book exclusively through our portfolio. And the unique thing about our market is that, again, it's traditionally a second home and weekender market. And on average, our stays are quite short. Our booking lead times are incredibly short. And we do an immense amount of business in week for the upcoming weekend. So, you know,
We put a pin on that. I'd love to and talk about that
we can
afterwards
talk
on
about it,
terms
but
of revenue management strategy there, but
yeah.
keep going.
But it's just part of our business. We also have, I think, much lower seasonality than other more true vacation markets, because we have this sort of constant pipeline of guests who are always looking to get out of the city and go somewhere for a weekend. And we provide just a very wide ranging portfolio of homes. And for the guests who do come and stay with us 4 or 5 times a year at different houses each time and for different weekends, there is a lot of variety and opportunity to try so many of the great towns that we're working in. We have such a strong connection with our guests that it does enable us to continue to outperform the market. We calculated that we had outperformed over the summer period between Memorial and Labor Day by about 12 points. And so we're always looking at data. We're always trying to assess how the market's pacing, how we're pacing against it. We want our homeowners to feel that they are going to make the most amount of money with us. And we really think that the environment that we've created and the data we have to back it up are really proving that.
That's awesome. And maybe I'm double clicking a bit more into the membership program. So there's not really like when you think about traditional vacation rentals, there's no real loyalty program. Like Verbo's trying to do something with one key. Airbnb doesn't have anything like, and you've got Marriott Homes and Villas that can leverage the Marriott system where you can earn and burn points, but there's not anything like, and I'm a Delta person out of Atlanta. Like if price is similar, like I'm gonna book Delta just because I wanna, and I'm a I'm a Delta loyalty person. So is that how you think about your membership program of like, you've got people that want to take regular vacations, you're able to offer them some sort of value to stay within the ecosystem where if they're going to book anyway, they might as well go with you?
hmm Well, I think the value prop is probably very different, from one business to another, and uh, the way in which we have come to it is through the lens of really having this very defined geographic specificity in our business, where we are speaking so clearly to a very, to a type of guest who is wanting to, have these very recurring stays with us. And um, if we were operating in other markets or markets that did not overlap as closely as these do, I think the value prop would be very different, and maybe we would have to structure this in a different way. And obviously, you speak about businesses that are much larger than ours. Now, and to talk about how Marriott's loyalty program or Bonvoy or Sky Miles, and they obviously you know offer points and things that a much broader base of people can benefit from. We are very defined in who we are catering to and targeting, and believe that there is a very clear value in this in the program that we have created for that person.
So what does that include? So if you were going to pitch me on being a member, like what would the value that I would get from that?
You would get Well, right now it's priced at $500 for the year. You would get a discount on your stays. You would get waived cleaning fees in some cases, depending on how long your stay is. You get early access to new homes. We're launching homes every single week. We have an incredible pipeline of homes that are coming out and continue to do so. You have an extended booking window, so most people can only book 12 months. You can book past that. you know, we're offering concierge services. We're offering uh, gifts on arrival to those members, and we continue to layer on extra and added benefits for those people. We have already seen people signing up who immediately book 2 or 3 stays. It's happened a number of times where an individual has signed up and said, I want to book my May weekend and I want to book my October weekend. And that just validates the entire program, because it is meant to incentivize that kind of travel and to help people feel like they're going to get the most value in coming straight to Red Cottage, and that they can have they can try all of these different homes, right? That are essentially available to them, more so than anyone else.
No, that's awesome. And sort of you talked about and being within sort of driving distance of New York City, as sort of a driving factor around business expansion today. And how Red Cottage, when you purchased it, was just sort of in the Catskills, Lower Hudson Valley area. So is it a specific strategy around just in every market that is within driving distance of New York City? Or are you trying to be more and specific in the ways that you're going about choosing which markets are in? Or like, if I got a guest and I want to keep that guest within the ecosystem, I've got to really have all the markets that they're going to want to drive to and be in those.
Yeah, well, I think that we're incredibly fortunate to be working in the market that we're in, and there continues to be a ton of opportunity for us here at the moment. We acquired our second management company, a company called Posto that was based in the Berkshires, and we completed that in June, and those homes rolled into the Red Cottage platform. We continue to source and look for opportunities to expand through acquisition further, and we're always having those conversations. There's something amazing about being in this region where it was just often overlooked by many of the national larger managers for so long. And I think for the reason that uh, these aren't true vacation markets in most cases in the way that you would find elsewhere. And this is not, these are not areas where historically the vacation rental industry had been present. And so it's still nascent in many ways, but just the dynamics of it being much more of of a second home market and a weekender market, I think also just, you know, kept people from really moving in. And so we had, in some sense, first mover advantage of being here and building. And to me, that's reflective of the pipeline that we have, where we get applications, almost every day from individuals who are, wanting to join the platform. And in terms of expansion opportunities, we want to go deeper here. It's not specifically, greater New York City, but definitely in the Northeast where the Red Cottage name really has resonance. And, at the same time, I'm under no illusion that the Red Cottage name needs to extend, into other parts of the country, at least in its current form.
That's interesting. And how are you seeing sort of scale going of like, is there benefits on the management side or sort of centralizing management of being like in New York and then having sort of your like the hub and spoke of like being able to as it managers sort of drive to each destination? Are you having to visit one? Are you having people that can and sort of move between markets? Like, and what does that look like?
There's benefit in being broad, as it helps mitigate your risk exposure in a continued uncertain regulatory environment,
Yeah.
right? So for us, that is sort of a nice byproduct of the way in which we're growing.
You're gonna be able to achieve a bit of scale by sort of and centrally sort of being around New York, and obviously that happens on a guest and for guests of being in nearby markets. I was just wondering if that happened and if you expected to gain scale by sort of keeping it to markets around New York versus like
do.
I'm
I do. I mean, our applications, reflect that, and they do overlap to a large degree. So, when we get these applications that come in from Massachusetts or Connecticut or the Hamptons, right? You know, we definitely have a critical mass north of Manhattan, but we have the capacity to take on those homes because, we have the staff and we have the presence, and we absolutely are, intending to grow further in those, you know, in those areas.
yeah. So looking at your portfolio, looking at the website, like it does look to be amazing homes that you've sort of put together in this portfolio. What does your process look like for vetting homeowners, vetting properties that are coming in? Is it like and you're growing, you're scaling, and as long as and a minimum threshold of property, or is it and that you guys have a really detailed set of criteria that you're looking for when you add properties in?
Yeah, well, we have very clearly defined brand standards for ourselves. We vet each home, we visit each home. At the same time, we want to be price agnostic. We want to cater to every, to all price segments and rent homes that are $200 a night as much as we do homes that are $2,000 a night. The portfolio in its current form is reflective of that. And so really we're looking for, homes that just have a really clearly defined, sense of design and taste. And we benefit from being in these areas where, we have so many homeowners who are in creative fields, in the design worlds, in the fashion worlds, and they are imparting that perspective on the homes that they're bringing to us. So, you know, the entire team that we have here has visibility into applications as they come in, and it's a very exciting thing you see when you get these homes that are just so amazing, and you just want to work with these owners. Yeah.
So you mentioned the sort of short booking window that you have, and we're clearly getting into what I'd suspect is one of the peak seasons in Lower Hudson Valley, Catskills, like with the leaves turning and people wanting to make weekend trips out. So how are you seeing sort of booking trends play out right now? Are you seeing sort of expected volume, or is it too early to tell?
It's a little too early to tell, only because um, our booking lead times are so short
Mhm.
consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, we have outperformed year over year in every month since since I came in to the business. Um, we've already passed our goal for the year, and we had passed our 2023 numbers in June. So we're pacing incredibly well. But that being said, the lead times are just so short. You're just getting these bookings. A large function of that is just, we have a bigger portfolio now also. So, you have to take that into consideration. At the same time, October, November, December, we're looking at those months, and, you know, they're slow, but they won't be. I mean, likely, we'll get the bookings that we expect, just in month. And, for a number of our owners who are trying to forecast, I appreciate that it can be nerve wracking, but this has proven to be the case, for at least the last 2 years with our business, and it's just something that we've had to adapt to.
Yeah. And how do you think about now pulling that pin that we put down before of like revenue management around that, and knowing that there are some homeowners that probably have that a risk tolerance, that they're willing to trust you and wait and know that and a large number of bookings are going to come in that week for that weekend versus the ones that and sort of know if I drop rate I might be able to get bookings in a few weeks in advance and know that I'm gonna get booked and that and each home unlike a hotel, like each home is so unique to that individual owner, and they don't care that, "Oh, we expect 60% of homes to get booked for the weekend," and they don't want their home to be that 40% that doesn't.
Right, it's tough, and I can understand the apprehension for owners who are needing to forecast and plan in that way. And we have conversations with people often about these kinds of dynamics that we're dealing with in this market. I think, at least probably in this moment, it might scare off individuals who are purely coming to this, as an investment opportunity, which isn't a huge problem for us. You know, I'd almost rather work with owners who use the home and who, uh, you know, give it so much attention and focus, and are able to help maintain it, in a way that, is aligns with the portfolio. I think those are, they can be more demanding partners, but they're good partners to have. And so, I think just the fact that our portfolio is so dominated by second homeowners rather than investor owners is, again, reflective of the market that we're in, the dynamics that are at play. And I anticipate those trends will continue in that way, and that will, be the profile, generally speaking, of the homeowners that we're working with.
Oh, that's great. And I feel like is unique to some of the property managers that I've talked to of, and it seems like so many are investor driven as opposed to
In Gallenberg, that's what you're getting, right?
right.
Well, again, it's just a different market. And, you to even lump them together as being in the same industry, can feel it's not comparing apples to apples, but I think that we're almost better for it, even with the constraints that that we do have.
And one of the benefits of working with investors is sort of once you've sort of proven to them, then they want to buy more properties and then they list more properties with you. And it can be a way for sort of a organic growth of your portfolio. So and it's sort of the tee up of the question of as you think about portfolio growth in the future, do you see it being organic of sort of growing in the existing markets, or do you imagine that it's going to be more acquisition
We'll
where
continue,
you're
yeah,
yeah.
we'll continue to grow through acquisition, absolutely, because, I think to some extent, the business we're in requires uh, you to have, you know, uh, more units. It favors businesses and portfolios that have more units. The way that all of this software is now being priced and structured incentivizes managers to have more units. And I think that you have to be smart about the way in which you go and bring those on and attract those owners and those properties, right? I think for as much as anyone wants to say, as much as anyone wants to build a platform in the space, right? At the end of the day, the crux of the business is property management, and that is a very operationally challenging business, especially when you're operating in so many distinct markets. We are in markets that, you know, maybe are distinct in name, but geographically align very closely, and that allows us to staff and build a team in a way where we're really able to provide a high level of service. So, we will continue to grow organically through the homes that come to us as they continue to, but we will absolutely be looking for, new acquisition opportunities as well.
Yeah. And you said that and this is operationally intensive, and that's a theme that I've sort of picked up on in sort of interviewing CEOs over the last few years on the podcast. And time again, there seems to be this like inflection point of getting from like 100 to 200 that's a property manager moves through there where like 0 to 100 like isn't necessarily it's not like it's easy, but and you it's scalable. And then that 100 to 200 becomes that time where you really have to have the systems in place because things can start to snowball and sort of snowball in a bad way in terms of if you don't have the process in place, they can get to be ability. So how are you seeing scale go now? You're sort of in that middle 150 property range. Like, is that
Right.
a yeah.
We're at about 150 properties. I think we calculated about 950 reservations this summer from Memorial to Labor Day. That worked out to somewhere in the range of about 5,000 individual guests that were on site at a Red Cottage home. It is challenging. Uh, the team that we have in place is incredible. The systems that we've been able to build for ourselves are best in class, and you need that. I mean, to be able to operate in this way. And we actually just had our team offsite yesterday, where we really talked about, next year into 2025, into summer 2025, we anticipate being an even different company than we are right now. And how do we break some of those systems and rebuild them in order to be able to cater at an even higher level uh, to these homes?
Can you share any of those systems that you see that are gonna need to be broken? You can already tell that, there's a problem there?
There are a lot of Gantt charts, I'll tell you that. I'm not gonna tell you what we, and you need so much visibility
Yeah.
constantly. And there's so much information, right? You're managing 150 uh, homes. It's like a hotel that had 150 rooms, but each one is a 6-bedroom suite, and the light switches are different in every single one, and they all have hot tubs, but the hot tubs are all different models. And, you know, it's crazy. Everyone has different appliances, and you need to know how every appliance works. And, you know, the questions that you get asked at any given moment from a guest, from things that are within your control and in your purview to things that are outside your control or your purview, such as, you know, how you troubleshoot the Roku stick. I mean, things are, it's complex, and um, it requires that every single person on the team be able to access the information, because no one has it memorized, but you need to be able to have it all at a moment's notice and know how things are being turned and when they're being turned and issues that happen during the turn. And, as you have guests who come to you so often, you need to make sure that the feedback that guest provided was actioned for the next stay. And it requires it requires teamwork from, throughout the entire business.
Yeah, so I'm in sitting in your seat, and are there any metrics you like to follow that sort of help you understand the overall health of the business, either from the guest side, the operation side, the financial health? Like, what are you following on a regular basis?
I mean, I'm generally following our gross booking revenue, you know, and tracking that, you know, twice a day, I would say. Um, the size of the portfolio is important, but we also, we just want to maximize the efficiency of the portfolio. And I think you asked how, just about management in general. And, for us, the coordination of cleaning and the coordination of service providers and maintenance is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's the visible portion, and it's arguably the not the least important, but the it pales in comparison to a lot of the services that we're offering that aren't necessarily visible to the owners, from the pricing strategies to the listing strategies to, we're providing every owner we have with a customized quarterly statement that essentially benchmarks for them their performance relative to the individual neighborhood and market that they are in, and it's a function of the fact that post COVID, you had so many owners who were saying, "Well, why am I not hitting my numbers that I did, in the last 12 months?" And
Mhm.
it's critical in a market that continues to evolve and change so quickly, that you're saying to them, you know, you're still outperforming your market. Even if you make less money quarter to quarter, the market is changing. Here is, how many other homes are in the market relative to this time last year. Here's how, here's your occupancy, here's your ADR, and you really want to take the opportunity as often as you can to sort of just reset that baseline expectation, so that they feel more comfortable with their performance and the market. And that's for homeowners who aren't even coming into this as investors. I think you still need to, for anyone, just be making sure that they, have an understanding of the dynamics that are at play and that you as the manager are working with. That has proven to be an incredibly just well received component of what we do, and that's allowed us to um, just give that kind of reassurance that I think is so important often.
No, that makes sense. And it's something that, and I talk with property managers a lot about, of like their communication with homeowners, and what are all those touch points, and what are you doing to, and when they sort of see the numbers that they're sort of earning, like give them the context around that to help them understand, like, is that good? Is it bad? Like,
And
so,
that's by no means like the full scope of the communications we have with them, but even just to be able to say, "This is your financial performance. These are your reviews that you've gotten this period that you've already seen. This is a recap of your, housekeeping, maintenance, upkeep work." All of that just comprehensively in one sheet, it goes such a long way.
Yeah. So you mentioned how and you don't see a lot of other sort of large scale professional managers trying to go after the same markets that you're in.
Oh, I
S
do. I do all the time now. I'm just
well, now
they were
and then maybe
were overlooked for quite some time, which gave us the opportunity to come.
and tease up and some of the question around, like, who do you consider your competitors today? Like, is it the large professional managers? Is it the boutique operators? Is it and are you not even seeing, like, other property managers as your competitors? Like, who
I
who
don't
keeps you up at night?
I don't like to name names. Um,
I don't I don't even you don't need
I
names,
I will
but
say that I think the quality of our brand
Mhm.
elevates us to a position where the perception may even be that we're bigger than we are in a way that works in our favor. And we are very brand focused in terms of how we think about every single touch point that we have with our guest, right? That carries through the entire experience. And we continue to think about ways that we can further reinforce that to make sure that they are aware that this is a Red Cottage home, that they have booked this through Red Cottage, whether it's through an OTA or direct, and they're having an experience that is specific to Red Cottage. So, having that in an area that historically, or an industry that has historically been somewhat devoid of brand, I think sets us apart and allows us to have the kind of awareness that we do.
that's awesome. Well, Matthew, like, this has been a great conversation. And maybe last question before I ask and you just give your contact info or ways people can find you is we're sort of sitting at the and coming up on the end of 2024 and from your vantage point and where do you see things evolving in the industry throughout 2025, 2026, like and any high level thoughts or predictions on what we're going to see going forward?
Well, I think that, we continue to see consolidation and professionalization in this space. And, there's been a lot of talk about how, or I'd say a lot of questioning about whether Airbnb is working to counteract that, or if the changes that they are making to their own platform are further enforcing and enhancing that kind of momentum. And I actually think that it's much more the latter, right? We know that the the likelihood that an individual booking on an OTA in this, in 2024 is it's exponentially greater that they're booking from a professional manager than it was, you know, 5 to 10 years ago on those platforms, like, right? That much is true. And you now are in a place where there's a lot of interest and momentum of individuals to come into the space as managers. You see a lot of people with portfolios of 10 to 15 units. You look at the features that Airbnb is launching, which, I'm not recalling how the name of it, but they're incentivizing individuals to take on more properties themselves.
Their co-hosting program.
Oh, the close program. Thank you.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, why don't you ask your neighbor if you can be their manager? That forces further consolidation, even incrementally at the smallest level. And I think what you're going to end up seeing is that there will be further shifts so that, so you'll see individuals that have these really small portfolios who are then finding that this is increasingly challenging, the space. It's operationally difficult. And more than that, the software that you need to be competitive, the tech stack that you need to put together to be competitive in this space is incredibly expensive. The PMS systems and the cleaning systems and the guest verification tools, like, all of these things add up. And if you have the if you have the awareness of all those things as they exist in the market, you probably want them for your business, and you want them for your properties that you're managing, it's very, very expensive. I think it's expensive if you have, you know, sub 40, 50 units to work in all of those different tools. Not to mention, it requires staff. All of those things, I think, push smaller portfolios to further consolidate, to further grow. And I think you will just continue to see this trend of professionalization and consolidation across the industry broadly.
No, I agree, and many of those tools don't even scale themselves in terms of they keep charging you per unit as you grow, right?
That's right. I know it.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for joining. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the podcast.
I so appreciate it. I hope we can do it again.